Hello. Yep, this is Lizardfunk, and this is what the project looks in the moon glasses, well, the toolkit. We have Candlekeep, we have Candlekeep Coastway, bunch of cool levels. We are going to open up the Candlekeep Coastway, and I thought I'd show you how to make a simple dialogue. Hopefully more of you guys want to implement them in the project. So let's load and see what we can do. Okay, so we're in the level and we have a bunch of edited files, which is cool. I'm just going to try and pick a simple one where the character is actually in the level. I think we're going to be a bit mean to 786 here and actually put in a character to create this avarice dialogue. Because the interesting thing about this is when you speak to him the first time it says something, and then you speak to him the second time it says something else. And then if you have a required item, he will tell you that you've completed the riddle and the conversation ends. Or if you don't have the riddles, he says something else, right? So we're going to just like take a character and plop it into the game and pretend that it is avarice, and we're going to make a dialogue. So we're in the game. Let's find a character that could be a good substitute for avarice. I guess a dwarven male is fine. Like this guy, for example. This seems to be a character from the trailer. He doesn't appear in the game. What I did now was right click, and I'm going to make a copy of this character. My toolkit is acting up. I've been using it a lot today. Yeah, so I will make sure to place it in the right mod. And yeah, we can change the name later, or 786 can just delete it, but I'm going to create this character, Avarice. I'm going to place him here, and we will make a dialogue for him. Okay, so here we are re-recording the audio that was lost. I will try to describe what's going on in the video. So you see I have the dialogue file here, and it's in a notepad format, so it's really easy to cut and paste. And yep, I'm keeping it in notepad. And then we're opening the dialogue editor. And this is where you're going to make your dialogues. First, we will define the speakers. You will have to add the character you're speaking to. And I guess I'm doing that there. It's the dwarf we made. And you have to add the player character. That will be your avatar. And then group players would be the player character, and that speaker will always be last in the order. Of course, if your dialogue contains more speakers than this, you have to add them, but that's a little bit more complex. So we can do a video on that later. So we are saving the dialogue, and I guess you can see me selecting the folder. I think the folders have changed now, and they're like organized in a different way, but I'm sure you can figure that out. Yeah, so already here there are different folders, and I just saved it as an example. I'm sure it's been moved by now, but I guess you get the point. So name it in some sort of reasonable way, according to the formatting, and we can start making the dialogue. So we have the script in Notepad, and set the windows up in a way that will make it easy for you. And we will add a greeting node. A dialogue always starts with a greeting node, and that will be something either said by the narrator or the person you're speaking to. Answers are also things said by the person you're speaking to. So I'm just copying and pasting here. I think it's easy to sort of make the nodes, and then you can connect them. They will have to be connected to flow correctly, to come after each other. And we have these like 6 lines or something that's said by Avarice. We also have a second conversation with Avarice. That's the second time you speak to this character. So I'm making a new greeting node. And the second time you speak to Avarice, you have two different options. You can reply in two different ways. So if the player replies to something, that's a question node. And then if you say something with the blue question node, Avarice will reply something. So I'm sort of just making the structure here for the dialogue. And soon we will start inserting the actual lines. So that's what I'm doing now. So I'm copying the text. Adding some periods that were missing. Copying the text, and we will start inserting it. So I'm just pasting it into the field. So that's the first line. We're adding the second line. We're adding the third line. The fourth. And doing it in this way is what I feel is the simplest way. So you see we're missing an answer node, so we can just add it. Add an answer node. So there we go. And then we're adding the lines for the second time you speak to him. And we will be adding what the player can say. So the player can say two different things. Basically, you can give him the special item you have collected, or you can say that you don't have it. So I'm just making something up here as an example. So it's I have the special item versus I don't have the special item. And then Avarice will have different responses based on that. So if you have the special item, he will tell you that he is Avarice. And he will bring doom upon you in this cursed place. If you don't have the item, he will reply, you do not yet have what I require. And there we go. So we have now created a dialogue. We have two speakers, you versus the NPC. There are two conversations, and we have to mark the final node as an end node. Well, the final nodes. So you see red is where the conversation ends, and green is where the conversation starts. Yellow would be what the NPC says, and the question nodes is what the player says. So we have to ensure that the first time you speak to Avarice, you will get the first dialogue. So what we're going to do to make that happen is to make a flag. You can make different sort of flags, global flags or object flags. An object flag is on the speaker, or it's set on a character, and global flags are just set. So I think what I'm doing here is just exploring what sort of flags are present. I was trying to check out if we'd made some flags for the project, but what I ended up doing is just creating a global flag. So what I'm doing here is just searching through all the flags in the game, or that would also include flags made in our project. But I didn't find anything, so I decided to make one. I called it dr avarice spoke once or something. And you have to put in the description. If you don't, it won't save. So I just say you spoke to Avarice once, and it's adding the flag. So in my experience, it takes quite a long time for the toolkit to save the first flag you make every time you open the toolkit. So just don't touch it, and yeah, it made it, so that didn't take too long. It's made a flag, the flag is now active, and it will be set when that greeting node is played. We are also adding a flag to check. So we're adding the same flag, and we're going to uncheck it. So this node will only play if that flag is not set. And for the second dialog, we are adding the flag again. We will check for the flag. So we will check that it is set. So the first time you speak to Avarice, that flag will be set. And then the second time you speak to Avarice, you will check for that flag. Sometimes you get that error message, you can just ignore it. We are now going to assign the dialog to Avarice. So you can just go to his sidebar and search for the dialog, entering it there. And we're going to test it, and what we will see is that, hopefully, the dialog will play. Yeah, so you can see this dialog is happening. We speak to him the second time, and we get the second dialog, and we get 2 options for the special item versus not having the special item. But the way this is playing out is quite boring. You can see it looks a bit like a DOS 2, like you don't have a timeline. So what we're going to have to do is actually make a timeline. So I will show you how to do that as well. So the timeline means the cinematics that you have in Dialog. And yeah, I'm just showing you how weird it is in the game without a timeline. You can just move the camera everywhere. It's not ideal. So we're going to go then back into the dialog file, I think, if I remember correctly. So yeah, so we're opening up the dialog file again. And we're going to go to Tools, Timeline, Generate, Full Copper. I have no idea what the difference between full and full copper is. I don't think anyone ever figured it out. Make sure to place it in your mod project. You will get this sort of tutorial, and you will get a lot of options, and by default it's set to a default timeline template. Personally, I prefer to use a timeline template from the actual game, so I've put one in the Deathbringer's Reign project. So you have to go to sorry. You will have to go to the project folders for Deathbringer's Reign. So you see I'm doing that here, and I'm sort of selecting the wrong folder. So let's try it again. Maybe it's in public, and it would be in timeline, generated, and you see all the timeline files, but there's also one, a timeline template called, I can't actually see it on my screen, but there you go, timeline template lizard, so you can use that if you like. Then you just select that, go next, and a timeline will be generated. And now you can see a lot of new weird functions. First of all, you see the dwarf on the right, and then you see the timeline editor on the left. And this is something that takes a bit of exposure to get into, but basically it's like a movie editor. So you see the characters' lines. And I think that what I'm showing you now is what happens now that we have a default timeline attached to this dialog. So we can just press play, but I am reloading level and story first to reset the flags, so that when we speak to him we get the first conversation and not the second one. So here we are then, let's talk to this dwarf. So speaking to him again, now you know it looks a lot better. You are getting some cinematics, and these are just like what's generated by default. In the timeline editor, you can then add animations and facial expressions and things like that. But inserting the dialogues like this is a really good start. because whenever we like, we can edit and add emotional expressions and things like that. So this is now working well. Yeah, so I'm making him a non-player character for some reason, because he probably shouldn't be a player character. Yeah. The NPCs shouldn't be player characters. This was something, as I'm recording the audio, I'm remembering that for some reason he was suddenly set as a player character. So yeah, so now we don't have the dwarf as a player character. The timeline is working. And I don't know or recollect whether I went into editing the emotional expressions or animations in this timeline sequence, but I do have a few tutorials that go into that on YouTube. So if you want to like put in the dialogue and start editing the timelines, you can do that. It's fairly simple to add emotions like facial expressions and add animations like how the bodies move in the scene. And yeah, so I hope that I managed to add the relevant audio to this video. I'm gonna re-export it and share it with you guys. Feel free to ask me questions. I am a little busy these days, but I'm really happy to answer anything in regards to timeline editing. I really love doing it, so best of luck to you guys. I hope to contribute more soon.